to invite Brett Haywood, who's our C3 panel convener.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Brett Haywood. I'm the Environmental Services Manager at Essential Energy. So hopefully I don't do what John did. I was just get a little bit nervous when up here. So as far as, I guess, news from the International Study Committee, Mercedes is the C3 chair. And I guess in Sendai recently, where we had a colloquium for C3 and I think B2, sorry. The main focus there was on trying to get through some of the old working groups. There's a lot of working groups that have been on and established for a little while now, and it's about trying to get it through to a technical brochure. And I guess English writers are a little bit hard to come by as well in the committee. I guess there's probably similar themes that are shared across the different panels. So if we just have a look here at, oh, that looks like the links are broken. So the C3 overview is responsible for, I guess, all things environmental that arise from the managing of the power network. And we'll see what happens here for the next button. So with the C3 panel, we did not meet in Cairns like the rest of, I think, out of the 14, out of the 16. So we met in Sendai in Japan. So we also had a regular annual meeting where we went through, I guess, the summary of the working group activities. There was 9 papers presented, and I'll just go quickly through those, what they were. So you had the development of landscape simulation tools, joint preferred route finding on stakeholder engagement. So there's been a bit of talk there about the transition and the community consultation that goes with that, and also the landowner pushback, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Experimental approaches to minimising bird-induced damage, and then managing critical habitat for threatened bird species. And then there was a comparative field study on colonisation of powered and unpowered subsea cables. And then lastly, there was about 5 papers on EMF. So as far as working group activities are concerned, is that there's a number of different activities that C3 are involved with. I'm involved with the working group C.09A, which is the Sustainable Corridor Management. And we just went through that in Sendai and had a bit of an update on activities. One proposed new working group was put forward, which was on the methods for reducing electrocution of birds from power lines. So there was a previous committee called C3.16, but its focus was on wildlife interaction with high voltage power lines. And this one was proposed by Norway to look specifically at more bird interaction with distribution type power lines. And speaking with the Norwegians about their experience, I've connected them with TAS Networks, because TAS Networks has a lot of experience with, I guess, eagles and their interaction with the distribution power line network down there in Tasmania. So I just want to take through, I guess, some stakeholder engagement. We've heard a lot about the energy transition and the land use social licence to operate and the land use, I guess, issues that have been happening over time. So I guess that the issues that we're having here is also happening on a global scale. So you've got a lot of different countries that are preparing different renewable energy zones, and invariably where they want to put these renewable energy zones aren't lining up where the network is. So there's a lot of effort going into building the network. So from a Dutch experience, they were looking towards a lot of their, I guess, energy zones, renewable energy zones are out offshore. And so they're looking to, I guess, increase the network and expand the network in order to facilitate that connection to those resources. So in this example, that they needed to build a 70-kilometre power line. I know it's a bit smaller than what we're used to dealing with. So 70 kilometres at 380 kilovolts. And they started the process, and this is the key point to this, I guess, this discussion. They started this process in 2009. They then went through, I guess, a detailed route option and selection process internally. So they went through a whole heap of different, I guess, options about where they wanted that transmission line to run. They then went public with that in 2014, so some 5 years later. And then as soon as they went public with that, there was lots of community backlash and pushback about it all. So they had to go back to the drawing board. And I'm sure there's a lot of people nodding at me at the moment. So there's a lot of, I guess, similar type experiences. So they had to go back to the drawing board. They then had to go out to the community and have them submit different options and that to consider. And I think they had to consider about 48 different options over the next 3-year period. So this started in 2009, 2014. By 2017, they were then able to select their preferred route. So it just goes to show the issues that you can have if you don't get this right. And just remember, this was over 70 kilometres, not hundreds of kilometres that we're building here. So as far as the lessons learnt from the Dutch experiences, you need to be, I guess, have a degree of transparency. So they're changing their processes a little bit. So rather than doing all their work in the background and then coming out to the community and saying this is where we want to go, they're more taking the approach of being a bit more open and forthcoming about what they need to achieve and engaging with the community early on in that process, and also taking the issues that are raised seriously in a constructive and a fair and transparent manner. So, and the last dot point there is probably one that we should all be mindful of, is that there is no sort of holy grail when it comes to engaging the community. So in all the experiences that you can still get it wrong. You can have all the best plans in place, but if people don't want a particular asset on their property, then you'll definitely know about it. So I just want to quickly talk about panel activities in Australia. So in November, or earlier this month, I should say, we're in November, we had the C3 Australian panel meeting in Brisbane at PowerLink's office there. So one of the focus I've had over the last, this is my second year, is to try and increase, participation from the different organisations in the C3. I guess you've heard from other presenters today about with other panels. Environment's a little bit similar in that we don't have a massive pool of people to draw upon and participate. So to have a really good turnout like that we did in Brisbane was really encouraging to the direction that we're going. So some of the things that we spoke about in that meeting is some of those things that we spoke about there: social licence, land use access, waste management, impacts from different regulatory proposals, and biosecurity and whatnot. It also involved a field visit. So on the second day we had a couple of different site meetings. So we went out here. So PowerLink, back in, I think it was about 2012, 2013, had a proposal to build a new transmission line, and as part of that they worked with Ipswich Council to do an offsetting. So this offsetting was a little bit different in that it wasn't directly related it was related to the works, but it wasn't in the same sort of area, and it wasn't a statutory requirement. This is something that they took on as a bit of a learning experience. I better move on. And you can just see there, so basically Ipswich Council don't have a lot of land under conservation, so they use this as an opportunity to purchase some tube stock and plant them on this property that Ipswich Council had. The second place that we went and visited was an area affected by floods back in the 2010-2011 floods in Brisbane. So the power line there, the two-pole structure was a single-pole structure and was failing from the floods. That's like a little island sort of sitting in the middle of the river. And so they replaced that single-pole structure with two structures that sit on an 18-metre depth footing. So the two structures there actually sit down on a 18-metre deep footing. That's it.